So hello, my name is Odin Johnson. You probably know that, it's in the title of my channel, but I believe this is the first time I've shown my face, at least to this channel, and it's to talk about something that's very near and dear to my heart, which is accessibility to the gaming industry, because just to give a quick rundown, my first console was the Xbox 360. Now, it wasn't the first console I played. I had very much dabbled with other generations of consoles before, namely the original Xbox, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2. But the Xbox 360 was the first game that I purchased. Everything else had been played at either a relative's house or at a friend's house or whatnot. And the big thing around it was, at the time, I just didn't have the money to get one. Didn't have time to get to even dedicate to a console, let alone to buy a console. But once I bought the Xbox 360, it really does open up your world to a lot of things. But one thing I remember at the time was getting games. I never spent over, I think it was €30 at the time, and even still that's quite a bit of money to spend on a game, at least for the time. But as gaming has developed, you see games coming out for about €70, €80, which I think is around $60 more in the US. But bear in mind, I'm going based off the European Euro currency because that's the jurisdiction I'm in. But the reason I'm making this video is because I did an article a couple of weeks back, and it'll be linked down below, and it was for a student-led website called Frontier. And in this article I talked a bit about the accessibility of the gaming industry, namely for people on a low income, mainly for people from a low income background, and people with disabilities. And I was looking through all the different companies that offer these gaming products. Now, I left out PC because that's obviously a different breed in itself, and I'll get onto that near the end. But when looking at things like, when looking at the main companies, namely Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft, it became evidently clear that accessibility to the gaming industry was very much being pioneered by Microsoft, funnily enough. And you're probably wondering how is this, Nintendo was quite good at creating family-friendly games that are making it accessible to anyone to join in. So when I'm talking about accessibility, I really mean an individual looking to get into the gaming market and how much they're going to get for their money in the gaming market. Now, this idea initially came to me, and I've been noticing it quite a while, and I think it's a topic that hasn't been discussed a lot, which is unfortunate because it's a really near and dear thing to my heart. But it's the Xbox Game Pass, which is now just Game Pass, I think. And when looking at what made it more accessible, I was looking at the prices for all different types of things, and as I mentioned before, me buying a game, I'd never spend over €30. So to think now of me trying to get into the gaming market, trying to experience consoles to their fullest extent, paying €70 for a game would be quite steep. And as it is for many people, especially those on low income backgrounds who are struggling at the moment to even pay what will be €500 or $450 for the next generation of console, whether it be the Xbox Series X or the PlayStation 5. Microsoft have really pioneered its way in making gaming accessible. Now I'm going to break it down to a couple of things here first, and one thing I want to talk about is the Game Pass. Now, when Game Pass first released, I remember it because I had an Xbox One at the time. When Xbox Game Pass first released, it wasn't a very desirable item to get unless you had the extra revenue. I believe at the time it was an extra $12.99 a month added on to your already, I think, well, depending on how you paid, but we'll say $6.99 a month for Xbox Live Gold. And so that's looking at about coming close to the €18, €20 mark. So you're not going to be paying €20 a month if you don't have that extra revenue to spare. But over time, Game Pass evolved into something that was a much more worth the money. It was much more accessible and much more cost effective. Now, what I mean by cost effective is Xbox Game Pass Ultimate is really where Game Pass started to become its own thing. It started to become something that people would desirably want to get instead of forking out the €70 for a game. Because at the time when Game Pass initially came out, if you were a long-term player such as myself, Game Pass didn't really offer many big features or big games for you to want to delve in and pay the €12 a month rather than just buying it out hand and then getting value for it that way. Now, Game Pass being $12.99 a month, that now includes access to Game Pass on PC, access to Game Pass on the Xbox One, and a whole load of different perks as well. So for example, I know in November, all Game Pass members got a free month for Disney Plus, which at the time Mandalorian's coming out, might as well make use of it. So it's a nice perk to get for people, and it adds on something else as well that you can maybe say, oh, I'm tipping on the edge of getting it. Oh, this is a cool perk. Maybe there'll be more stuff like this in the future, so I'm going to get it. But as we've seen recently, and this is another article I covered, it'll be linked down below as well, ZeniMax Media, who are the parent company of major third-party developers such as Bethesda, were recently acquired by Microsoft, so that making Bethesda pretty much a Microsoft studio now. So what we saw was, you're looking at a service that had very little support beforehand from big party developers, and now you're seeing new games like Doom Eternal coming onto the Game Pass despite only having been released in March, which is huge, and that makes it very much more accessible to people who don't have that extra money to burn. I remember I bought Doom Eternal on day one when it came out, but I know a lot of people who really want to play that who just couldn't because they can't justify getting rid of that space of money. And think about it, you're coming up to November, which is the height of when all games are released. If you take this month alone, if you were to take it from original base dates, Halo Infinite was meant to release this month, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is released this month, and oh god, is Cyberpunk meant to release? Yeah, Cyberpunk is to release this month as well. Those are three really big, huge developed games, and they're all going to be around €70 each. So you're looking at having to prioritize which game you may want to get. But Game Pass, now obviously all those games aren't going to be on Game Pass, but let's take for example, if more games like that are going to be on it, such as Sea of Thieves, Halo Master Chief Collection, Halo Infinite will be on it when it comes out, Ori, which is another fantastic game as well that a lot of people should really delve into, they're all on Game Pass. So if you're looking at getting a new generation console, and I'll get onto another bit of why that's very important in a second, but if you're looking at getting a new generation console, Xbox have already got this library stacked up for you if you want to get into the gaming market, if you want to test out all these games. Whether they're great or not, that's to be debated. There are some very good games and some quite poor games. The Gears titles especially are very much give you an incentive in its own to get the Game Pass, along with Halo, because they give you access to Microsoft's vast library of really good games, and we all know Microsoft has made some absolute bangers down the line, coming from studios like Bungie, 343 to a certain extent as well. So let's talk about the consoles a little bit, because the Series X is coming out this month, or it's already out, and it's €500. Steep enough, but it's for the hardware you're getting, that's probably the best value you can get. Now, that's not the console I want to focus on. The Series S, on the other hand, is only $250 or €300. Now, you can buy most current gen consoles, so PS4, Xbox, that's going to set you back €300, €400. So you're getting this new, granted not as powerful of a console, but more powerful than the Pro for Xbox One and PlayStation 4 for the same price, if not cheaper. It doesn't have the disc port, but if you're going to be getting Game Pass, all your games are going to be digital anyways. So for anyone wanting to get into the market, you can spend €300 outright, get the console, and then you've got $12.99 a month. I think there's a yearly deal, I'm not 100% certain of it, but that gives you such a brilliant entry into the market. And as you get further down the line, you can pick out which games you prefer. Maybe you'll stick with Game Pass, maybe you'll add games on that aren't on Game Pass into your library. But this is the best time for anyone now, especially during quarantine, to get into the gaming industry, to get into the gaming market. And Microsoft have made that very accessible to people. One other thing I want to mention, and I mentioned at the beginning, was that I want to talk about accessibility for the gaming market when it comes to not only people from low-income backgrounds, but also people with disabilities. And Microsoft have done a fantastic job with their new adaptive controller. Now, it's not new, it's been around for a while, but they're one of the very few studios that offer something like this. The adaptive controller allows you to select different inputs in which you want to put in, so it lets you cater to your own disability, which is a fantastic way of getting anyone that would happen to want to get involved in gaming, giving them that in. So, Microsoft have really stepped up their game in that regard. And, it's something that Sony had led the way on with regards to sort of a Game Pass feature before Xbox. But Xbox really just put the money into it, they prioritized it a lot more. And granted, if you want a console that's very heavy on top tier exclusives, God of War, Spider-Man, Horizon, PlayStation's the place to go, 100%. But if you're someone looking to enter into the marketplace, someone looking for entry-level games, someone looking for a cheap way to, experience the most out of the gaming industry, Xbox is hands down the easiest way to go. Now, I said we mentioned PCs very briefly, and Game Pass obviously applies to that, but I do want to stress, if you're looking to get into the gaming industry, in the long term, getting a PC is most definitely the best option, because you can upgrade that as you go along. You don't need to buy a consistently new generation of console each time, and allows you to cater to your own preferences. So I just wanted to make that abundantly clear. But I just want to make this video just to reiterate a couple of the points that I had mentioned in my article, which is that, again, without a shadow of a doubt, if you want a quick and easy way into the gaming industry, you've never played games before, you've never owned a console before, get an Xbox Series S, get Game Pass and work with that. Thanks for giving this video a watch. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you see, please leave a like down below and a subscribe would be greatly appreciated. If there's any other topics you'd like me to cover, maybe leave them down in the comments below. I look forward to hearing from you. I would like to know as well, up in the top, top left hand corner for me, is probably top right hand corner for you. Out of interest, if you are an Xbox user, do you have Game Pass? That's something I'd like to know anyways, because it's a good way to gauge it. If you don't have Xbox, then feel free not to do the poll, but if you do, I'd love to hear your answer to that. Thanks again for watching, hope you enjoyed, and see you later.